Nothing Personal starts in 30 seconds. It's just business. This is Nothing Personal.
Here you go. Here you go.
Concussed. That's the word of the day for Friday, the 13th of September, 2024. A couple things that are going on right now. I am waiting to pre-order the iPhone 16. It's available for pre-order now. I filled out the cart. I'm ready to roll. And I simply have a prompt that says, excited, so are we. Please stay on this page until we can bring you in for your pre-order. Well, somehow Apple got me to do this because my battery keeps going to zero. Trying to do multiple things at once as a sort of fully functioning human being. And the theme of the first part of Friday the 13th show is what are we going to talk about and how are we going to talk about what happened with Tua last night and the Dolphins. This was one of those examples where I took a minute after seeing the play, confirming with Coca what he saw, what I thought we saw, then watching the announcement that he is out very quickly. No blue tent required, right to the clubhouse. Tua got a concussion. If you did not watch the game last night between the Bills and Dolphins, let me sum it up very quickly. The Bills don't lose to the Dolphins, no matter how good the Dolphins are or are supposed to be. No matter how much money they give to Tua or how many offensive weapons they have, and no matter how many offensive weapons the Bills have lost, the Bills don't lose with Josh Allen to the Dolphins. The Bills crush the Dolphins, as we told you in the DraftKings Nothing Personal pick of the day, to take the Bills on the money line. The Dolphins were down 3 touchdowns. Tua had a 4th down and was scrambling. And instead of sliding after getting the first down, and there's a very set rule in football, when the quarterback slides down, you may not touch him. And defensive players do not touch him. But if you're going to lead shoulder pad or head first, then you are a offensive player, not a quarterback, trying to pick up yards. You can get tackled. Tua had gotten the first down and still went head first into Damar Hamlin. Yes, that Damar Hamlin, who of the Bills, who is back playing now after miraculously surviving his heart scare. And Tua went down immediately. Tua was down. Players were on their knees. Tua was helped off the field. He went off the field under his own power, but he looked as though he wouldn't be able to tell you what day it was, what the score was, or how to add 2 + 2. Walked back to the locker room. Football insiders were immediately tweeting concussion. Then it was announced he's out with a concussion. Then it started with he ought to retire. And this is former football players from Shannon Sharpe to Antonio Brown. Basically, people who have a voice in football talking about how scary this is, how unfortunate, how sad. And here's an angle that I think you should consider. I'm going to start with the wiry, I'm a robot front office angle, and then take it from there. Tua did not have a long-term deal until just a few, I guess it could be few weeks ago, when he signed that $210 million deal. He became the quarterback that he always wanted to be. More than $50 million per year. Record until Dak Prescott took it over, or Jordan Love took it over. I don't remember the sequence. I just know Dak was last. The Dolphins did not have to sign Tua to that deal. There was a tremendous amount of pressure put upon Stephen Ross to sign Tua to that deal. Pressure that comes from being an octogenarian who's never won a playoff game in your ownership career that is coming to an end, way closer to ending than it is to starting. The view that what's better out there than Tua Are we going to go back into the draft and start over? Is there a trade out there? Do we trade for Russell Wilson? Do we sign Ryan Tannehill? We have the best offense in the league last year. Tua led the league in passing yards. We have a coach that does nothing but put this quarterback in a position to be the best he can be. We have a quarterback who takes jiu-jitsu lessons because he had so many concussions in 2022, 2 known concussions. He made it through a full season in 2023. Everyone said, hey, he's stronger. He's learned how to fall. It's all good. Let's sign him. When you sign a player that has an injury history, you are taking a major risk. You could try to insure the guarantee portion of the contract, but when you go to an insurance company, they will tell you that the premium required to insure a player like Tua is so prohibitively large. And on top of that, we're probably not going to cover concussions because he looks predisposed to get concussions. So we're going to carve it out. If he has an Alex Smith injury and his legs get cut into 5 pieces, or he has his hip fall out, or his arm falls off, that we can talk about insuring, but the premium is going to give you night sweats. The reason I know about this so well is I was in the market to insure players when we would sign them to long-term deals. And more often than not, we would not take the insurance. And the reason we would not take the insurance is that we didn't want to pay the huge premium every year, knowing that the way the insurance works is that the player would have to miss a full year with an injury that gets certified by the insurance company, likely after a negotiation, if not a lawsuit. And then if the player is still out after missing a full year with the same injury, then the insurance company would pay the salary of the player. Staggering, isn't it? So we would decide to self-insure, which is code word for no insurance. When a company tells you or a team tells you they're going to self-insure a player, what they want you to think is they're secreting money away in a segregated account. And they're doing that as a protection against a player being injured, because then if the player gets hurt and they have to pay out that player, they pay it from this segregated fund, in which case they haven't hurt their ability to field the current team of healthy players. It is absolute horse hockey. Nobody puts the money in segregated accounts, even when you're supposed to, when there's rules requiring segregated accounts for deferrals and things like that in baseball. Either way, no one's doing it. Self-insurance is, hey, we're crossing our fingers, we're holding our breath, and we're hoping that this player plays. I haven't seen whether or not the Dolphins have insurance on Tua's contract, but I'm willing to bet you dollars to donuts that they do not. Football contracts are different than baseball contracts, which are fully guaranteed at signing. Football contracts are not. Tua's money was not fully guaranteed at signing. $93 million of it was guaranteed at signing. He's got $93 million more today than he had the day before he signed the deal. Whether he plays a down or he never misses a down. Then there are other levels of the guarantee. Let's just say that there is some sort of debate at the moment about what would happen if Tua stops playing, because there'd be 2 reasons. If he can't play because the doctors say you are not capable of ever playing again, he gets $124 million. If the doctors say, hey, man, you could play, but he chooses not to play, that means he gives up $124 million that's remaining. There is a fight that can happen between the union and the team about whether a player has been cleared to play. If you are a team, you want that player to be cleared. And if the player then chooses not to play, that means the player loses the money. You don't want to have a doctor say that the player can't play, because then you've got to pay him. So there are systems in place in the CBA where the way it works is you don't get to just take your team doctor. There's an independent doctor approved by the union and the owners. It's not just any doctor that stands up and says, hey, you're good, or hey, you're not good. When you're in that situation, it often leads to settlement discussions where the player and the agent and the team get together and say, listen, I understand you don't want to play. We think you can play. Let's talk turkey. And as we sit today, we're too early. All of the takes of Tua should retire, Tua is done, Tua is not done. We don't know exactly what's going on this morning medically with Tua. We don't know what's going on in his head, literally. The question is, all the talk of the NFL about traumatic brain injuries, safety of players, how important it is. How does Roger Goodell, with a straight face, look into the camera and say, it is in the best interest of Tua to continue to play? We have heard from the doctors. We don't believe there is any particular risk with Tua playing. This is not like Damar Hamlin, who was dead, basically, on the field and then cleared to play. And we had learned what happened, which was it was the odds of a lightning bolt, almost literally, that caused his heart to stop at that moment. When you've had multiple concussions, it's not the odds of a lightning bolt that you will get another concussion. This is not like when you go to the roulette wheel and the odds are the same each spin, no matter if there have been 10 reds in a row. The NFL constantly is trying to let parents of children who they want to start playing the game so they can be in the pipeline toward the pros to know that NFL cares about safety. Do you remember back in 22? Remember when Tua got cleared to come back in the game? And then he had the concussion. Then a doctor was like, hey, you're good, man. And then he goes back in and it was really sad and terrible and bad. The NFL fired that doctor. The union was a part of that. Agreed. What scenario do you think plays out where Tua plays again? Is the scenario very simple? You know what? He says to his family, parents, wife, children, I'm telling you, I feel great. I want to be there for my guys. I want to win a Super Bowl. But Tua, you've got at least $93 million. You've done it. We have enough money we have generational wealth. In Florida, after tax, you're going to have over $55 million is my guess, at least. After tax. We can put that in municipal bonds. We can get a rate of return of 3%, and you've got multi-millions coming in every year as a salary for the rest of your life, and we still would have $55 million to give to kids. Tell me the scenario, other than ego, other than fear of what to do now with your life, because I present you with exhibit A through Z. 26 exhibits of players who played too long with traumatic brain injuries, died young, became incapacitated mentally at ages like where I am now. I get football players and athletes, and I've spoken to so many athletes about this. I'm going to be limping the rest of my life. I know it. I'm never going to be able to have a catch with my son. That's how much my arm hurts. I'm going to need a hip replacement, a knee replacement. I've heard it all from the players. When it comes time to get the knee and the hip replacement and not play catch with their kids, almost uniformly, the player says, that's the cost of doing business. I'm good. I'm comfortable with the choice I made to be the professional athlete and put my family in the position or attempt to put my family in financial security. Never heard a player talk about that as it relates to a brain injury. Never. There is no amount of money, no amount of fame, no amount of jewelry. There is nothing that anyone should be allowed to trade if the payment is either early death or early incapacitation. We just read yesterday about a former hockey player, an enforcer who died at 44 years old. I forgot to talk to you about this, Sarah, before the show. There was some study that came out or some statistics about all of the fighters in hockey and how there is a correlation between dying young. The question is, do they know it? Do they know it? The NHL does not have the Ty Domies of the world anymore in the league for the most part. There are some. And I bring it up because it's the NFL's responsibility, the NHL's responsibility. It's your company's responsibility that if there is something that is so known and so certain to happen under so many scenarios, you've got to protect your employees against themselves. It's like in Florida when we have a hurricane warning and we'd have to close our offices, even though 9 out of 10 times the hurricanes don't hit you. But when there's a hurricane warning and you're in the center of doom, you've got to protect your employees and let them be home and setting up their family, their home, etc. I close this Tua conversation with the following prediction. Tua is not going to make a decision on retirement. I promise you that today. His first words are going to be that he appreciates all of the help and all of the well wishes and thoughts and prayers that came from all players around the league. Tua is not going to play for sure until after the bye week, and my guess is it could be longer than that. The Dolphins are going to have to figure out what they want to do financially about this and what they want to do about their future as it relates to Tua. Tua is going to wake up one day in the coming year and realize that he ought not take another snap. When your career ends because of injury, it's extremely sad. It's unpleasant for the team. It's unpleasant for the player. You think about what could have been, what would have been, what you wished is. But sometimes you just know when you have an injured player, when a player has his third Tommy John, when a player has an arthritic hip condition, you know it's done. That's sad. Potential lost. When a player ends a career because of a self-inflicted injury, I don't get sad. Self-inflicted injuries come in two ways. The physical self-inflicted injury is when you go skydiving in the off-season and your parachute doesn't open and you break your legs and can never play again. I don't get sad about that. Sort of pathetic. Self-inflicted injury is when you are motorcycle riding without a helmet and you break your foot, break your hand, break your head, and can't play. God knows I don't feel sad about that. It's in your contract. Read it. What about a self-inflicted end of a career that's not injury-based? The Minnesota Twins released their 6th-round draft pick yesterday for a self-inflicted, non-injury end-of-career moment. Let me set the stage. Derek Bender is a catcher who was drafted in the 6th round. That's, not a huge amount of money, probably $250,000 to $300,000 signing bonus. It's not nothing. He's a catcher. He's playing for low A affiliate, which means he's just beginning his career. There is 50-50 shot he makes it to the big leagues, probably less than 50-50. First rounders are 50-50. Under 50-50 is any other round. He's in the middle of a game. He's catching. He's squatting down. He looks up at the hitter. Most catchers are looking at the hitter, protecting their pitch comm device, looking out, looking around. We teach catchers, make sure you see where the hitter's eyes are, and then press the button, put your fingers down, or now it's press the pitch comm button. Why? Because we're not Bull Durham. We don't want to give the pitch away to the hitter. There are examples where catchers have given players the pitch. Jeff Conine may tell you the story of when Matt Trainer told him a fastball was coming in his last game, and he still couldn't hit it, and he said, uh-oh, I better retire. There are examples where D. Gordon may know in one of the most emotional, important home runs in Marlins history the day after Jose Fernandez died that he knew a fastball was coming from Bartolo Colon. So there are circumstances where the catcher lets the hitter know. Very few. In this situation, it was the second game of a doubleheader. This catcher, Derek Bender, was telling the hitters what pitch was coming. They were hitting the ball because that's the best way to be able to get hits in the big leagues or in the minor leagues is when you know what's coming, because then you're not guessing. And the majority of hits come on good guesses, and it's hard to make good guesses. The team that Fort Myers was playing was Lakeland, the Lakeland Flying Tigers. Lakeland scores 4 runs and goes on to win the Florida State League West Division, therefore eliminating Fort Myers. This was an elimination game. If Fort Myers wins, they go to the playoffs. If Fort Myers loses, they don't go to the playoffs. Derek Bender had said, according to sources, he didn't want his team to go to the playoffs because he was tired and wanted to go home and not play anymore. So he tips the pitches to the hitter. The team loses. The season ends. The people who work for Lakeland said, excuse me, just FYI, I thought you'd want to know this. Your guy was telling our guys what was coming. No, he was not. I've never heard of that in my life. No, I'm serious. We didn't steal your signs. Literally, the catcher was telling us what was coming. After a very quick, small investigation, they released him. The Minnesota Twins released Derek Bender. He's done. That is a self-inflicted end of a career, not injury division. Derek Bender will not be signed by any other organization. Wait to see. As a matter of fact, Coca, I'm making it my official wait to see. And we'll follow it for sure. He could be Trevor Bauer's catcher in the Mexican League, Charlie Sheen's catcher in the California Penal League. He will not ever be signed by a Major League Baseball organization. People asked me yesterday, Coca, did that ever happen to you? No, of course not. I sent a text to the president of the Twins. He hasn't responded yet. He must be so angry because you know what? The guy gets to keep his signing bonus. That really does make me upset. I've never seen that. Absolutely incredible. What an idiot. Nothing personal pick of the day. Yesterday, our nothing personal pick of the day was sponsored by DraftKings, and we gave you 2 picks. We had the Bills money line plus 114 versus the Dolphins. I can't believe we were able to get plus 114 when the Bills were 11-1 against the Dolphins in the last 12. They're now 12-1. They've outscored them by like almost 200 points. Josh Allen doesn't lose to the Dolphins, and Tua can't beat the Dolphins, notwithstanding the Tua injury. Yet, it was still Bills plus 114. We'll take it. Did you watch, Coca? Did you watch Kumar Rocker in his debut against the Mariners? Were you sad? Were you looking at bases loaded in the first inning and saying, way to go, Mets, way to go? And then you saw him strike out the side and you're like, oh no, is this possible? We could have had him. We could have had DeGrom, Scherzer. We could have been the Rangers. Kumar Rocker is really, really good. Now, granted, his arm is holding on by a thread. I would not sign him long-term. I would not expect him to get to free agency healthy. He's already had 2 major injuries. That said, last night, we had the Rangers plus 136 over the Mariners. Again, not sure how that happened, but we got ourselves a win. We are now 122 and 125 with 2 underdog wins yesterday. So naturally, our picks this weekend are all favorites. The Rangers are going for 2 in a row tonight against the Mariners, and it is the season debut, get ready, Mets fans, of Jacob deGrom. I can't imagine. I didn't ask Coca this pre-show. Are you going to watch deGrom pitch? Do you watch it with frustration? Do you watch it with longing? Do you watch it with disdain, contempt, frustration? He's yelling in my ear. I'm not even watching the Mets. Yes, you are. You can play the game all you want that you're not rooting for the Mets to make the playoffs, or you are rooting, but you're not watching because you're so sure they're not. Stop being such a self-hating Mets fan. I don't care if YouTube TV, then buy the app. Okay. We're taking the Rangers over the Mariners. They're going to let DeGrom go at least 5. My guess is he can go to 85 to 95 pitches. Hopefully he'll be economical with his pitches and he can go 6 and the bullpen won't blow it. And we're taking the Rangers over the Mariners. Saturday, it's Corbin Day, baby, against the Marlins. That means we have to take the Marlins. Not loving that. As a matter of fact, we've done that before, and Corbin shoved it up his keister. But we're taking the Marlins over the Nats on Saturday. Then it's week 2. I was taking an informal poll yesterday, deciding what my pick was for Sunday, and boy, was it easy. Hey, Giants fans, how we looking? Oh, we're going to rebound. It's good. Daniel Jones stinks, but it's good. We're playing the Commanders. We're ready. Apologize Dice after that week 1 stinker. DJ is way better than he's shown. He's going to earn that contract against that crap team, that crap organization owned by Dan Snyder. But I would point out, Dan Snyder doesn't own the Commanders anymore. Yeah, but they still stink. Guess what? We're going Commanders minus 1.5 over the Giants. For all of the blind Giants fans, I can only say that I used to be one of you. I am very sympathetic to your plight. And your plight is a team that's going to win 3 games, and this isn't one of them. Because Josh Harris is saying to his team, hey, we may not win a lot of games. We got to win this one. Commanders minus 1.5. Those are your nothing personal picks of the day. All right, we come back. We're going to review a documentary on Max. I cannot wait to talk about it. It's by Eric Good, the same guy who did the Tiger King documentary. If you listen to Le Batard, there was some talk about it, but I can't wait to talk about Chimp Crazy. And then one of you must be from Oakland. We've got another Oakland A's, Sacramento A's, Las Vegas A's conversation, because that is the fountain of content that keeps on spewing. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Nothing Personal. It is David Samson coming at you. I'm trying to do 2 things at once, and I can't do it, Coca. My focus is on you. It's Friday. Why can't I wait? What is in my brain that I can't wait 22 minutes before getting the next iPhone? I'm at the checkout, but they're telling me about a delivery date that I can't do. I need to do it sooner. It's a whole Megillah. So I'm going to wait. Thank you. Let's get focused. Let's review a documentary that I watched. Yesterday was a day. I was not feeling well yesterday. I'm feeling better today. In a few hours, I'll be totally fine. So this was 2 days ago. I can't remember which day. I watched all 4 episodes of Chimp Crazy. Can we talk about Chimp Crazy? Have you watched it? Coca, do you know who Tanya Haddix is? Well, this is a documentary done by Eric Good, who is the Tiger King guy. Not the Tiger King. He's the one who did the documentary, the Perfect Storm documentary during COVID. Chimp Crazy is about people who have primates for pets. It's about a woman, Tanya Haddix, who has a real problem. When you treat your pet better than you treat your child, and you can come after me, PETA, you've done it before, you have a problem. I am not for mistreating your pet, and I'm not for telling you that if you only have pets and don't have children, that you're a bad person who shouldn't vote. It's the opposite, quite honestly. You know my view of how hard it is to be a parent. But in this case, if you have kids and a pet, but you take care of your pets in a way that you don't take care of your kids, I view that as a crime. There's another crime, which is having a chimpanzee or any exotic animal as a pet. There is an underground market for exotic pets. There is an underground funnel of brokers who find these pets, these wild animals, make them pets, and then the little cute babies who these women want, or men, they grow up because animals grow up and they grow big. And then we're surprised when people die. I was so infuriated watching Chimp Crazy because A, I couldn't stop, but B, the fact that Tanya Haddix is not in prison is beyond me. The fact that there are people who believe that it's okay to cage wild animals because you so badly need a companion. This is where I wish iRobot were a real thing, or Ex Machina. This is where anyone who's been on safari in Africa wouldn't even hesitate before turning these people in. And if you're not lucky enough to have done that, and you just have 1 ounce of empathy, 1 ounce, and that's about where I am, 1 ounce, a quarter of an ounce, and I have enough empathy for these chimpanzees and for these animals to say, no, we can't do this. Of course, in Hollywood, and that was part of this documentary, we do things like BJ and the Bear. We do things like Babe. There are these chimps like Tonka, if you watch Chimp Crazy, and Tonka's a big focus of the documentary, where Tonka is famous. He's a Hollywood chimp. You've got Alan Cumming, who is the actor who's out there trying to find his old co-star. Where's Tonka? I miss you, Tonka. I love you, Tonka. You see stories of people who raise wolves, raise wild animals, lions, and then all of a sudden they're best friends with them. And I'm not talking about the people who do the good work studying the primates in Africa, in their natural habitat. I'm talking about people who capture them and raise them and then wonder how it could go wrong. Do yourself a favor and watch Chimp Crazy, and please help me understand how you could have a different view than mine. And I don't like to say that, but I am waiting for anyone. And so far, you're all batting 0. I'm waiting for the argument that having a primate as a pet is the right thing to do. The right thing to do. Loving you is the right thing to do. Coca, Sarah, anything? Carly Simon, nothing, nobody. 42.9% of you are smiling right now. Because I love you now as I loved you then, even though we're 10,000 miles away. All right, Coca, play some music that people do know.
You know what I want? I want to talk to Samson.
So you want to talk to Samson? Get into my X at David P. Samson, or get onto our website, davidsamsonpodcast.com. Thank you for, there is a run of diamond nothing personal hoodies. I guess people are seeing that it's getting colder. The nothing personal diamond hoodie. We have merch at davidsamsonpodcast.com. There are horse hockey hoodies, though. Ask me a question. It may make the show. I know you keep talking about it, but the A's are in the news every day. Your favorite agent said that the players haven't agreed to play in Sacramento, but they are selling tickets. Yes or no? Will the A's play in Sacramento? How about a wait and see? A couple things about that question, just when you're doing, if you happen to ask a question about a topic that we're talking about, you got a shot. Hello, David would be nice, just to say, hey, what's shaking? How you doing? And also, it's wait to see. I don't say, hey, David Samson says wait and see. No, wait to see. But of course, the reason I'm still willing to do the question is that there was a lot of activity on the Sacramento side yesterday. Scott Boras is funny. How is it that Scott Boras, I'm so glad it's Friday. I get to switch out my handkerchief. It's a little sweaty and Gross. I don't know why I only do it once a week. That really should be silly. I should think about doing it every day. If you're not watching this on the Nothing Personal with David Samson YouTube channel, you have no idea what I just did. I was wiping my kepi with a hanky. That's Yiddish for head. The one with the eyes. What were we talking about, Coca? I have no idea. Sacramento, thank you. Oh, Scott Boras. Scott Boras came out yesterday. He's such a, I want to say tool, but that's not a nice word. Let me find a better way to say it. Scott Boras has such an inflated sense of his role. Now, when he had all those players on the executive council and he was the one running the CBA, you could argue, wow, that's sort of a big role to have in the union. When he's got owners like the late, great Ted Lerner and others wrapped around his finger Sting style, you may have reason to say that you're running the game. Even at his height, which has somehow, it's been eclipsed by time. It's been eclipsed by his players not performing. It's been eclipsed by his lies about his players. He's trying to recapture the magic this offseason. I can promise you that. He continues to be miserable about what happened to his core four players last season. Couldn't be happier to have gotten the San Francisco Giants to screw up and sign Chapman to that long-term deal that they're regretting every day since they signed it, which they just signed. But there's one area that Scott Boras never had the power ever, and that's with relocation. I don't know if you know this. The players' union has as much power to relocate a team as you do to stop a relocation. Zero. The players' union does have the right to collectively bargain player surroundings, player comforts, player conditions. Scott Boras came out yesterday and said, hey, man, outdoor turf, forget about it. There is no agreement right now between the union and Major League Baseball. The move to Sacramento is up in the air for 2025. And by the way, they should stay in Oakland. We've got new owners of the Oakland Coliseum. There's groups who want to buy the A's. There's groups, even if they don't buy the A's, John Fisher, who owns the A's, knows that he could still play in Oakland because Oakland would still have him. It was such horse hockey. And what bothered me significantly is that Major League Baseball felt the need to release a statement about Scott Boras's starting of this crazy road where the A's would not be playing their games in Sacramento next year. That ship has sailed. It's done. You can release as many stories as you want about season ticket prices in Sacramento, lack of playoff guarantee in Sacramento we covered this week, the heat that will exist on the AstroTurf, the despondency of the players to have a clubhouse in the outfield, whatever you want. Name every grievance you can think of. The Oakland A's will be playing in Sacramento in 2025. Move on. But MLB felt the need to come out and say it is a certainty that the A's will play their 2025 season in Sacramento as planned. MLB is continuing to work productively with the MLBPA, that's the Players Association, on the details of the transition. Couple things in that statement that are worth noting. Number one, they said will play their 2025 season in Sacramento as planned. The A's have a plan to play in Sacramento for 3 years. They have an option to play there a fourth year if the stadium in Vegas doesn't get built, or if the stadium in Oakland doesn't get built, or if the stadium in Sacramento doesn't get built. And we're talking about a major league caliber stadium, a first-class stadium. Why would MLB just say 2025? Is there a scenario under which that the A's would be nomadic and have to find a different place to play in 2026? There is a can that has been kicked by MLB, and that can is they had to get the schedule out for 2025. They had to cut the TV deal for Oakland. They had to figure out the revenue sharing because they had to counsel teams as to what their revenue sharing payments would be, either incoming or outgoing. All of these things have to happen prior to the offseason when teams are putting their rosters together. But MLB didn't mistakenly say only 2025. That was purposeful. I'd like to give them the credit to say that if the Sacramento A's were going to exist for a minimum of 3 years, then MLB could have said, to end all further conversations, it is a certainty that the A's will play their 25, 26, and 27 season in Sacramento as planned. Nope. They just said 25. So you're saying we got a shot. Now, what about the negotiation where Scott Boras thinks, oh, we need some sort of concession? It's not how it works. You negotiate with the union for the details of the transition. You explain to the union what you're doing for the clubhouse, what you're doing for player safety, both on the field and off the field. If the union says absolutely no, 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 where are you going to go? Who are you going to call? You're shouting no into the abyss. You have no power to stop the team from playing there. You can file a grievance all you want and say unsafe working conditions. You're going to lose because Major League Baseball will say, all right, I hope all you guys go play on grass in Kansas City and Cincinnati and St. Louis. End of story. You could say, hey, that's a really below par weight room. It's outrageous that the clubhouse is not behind the dugouts. You're going to file a grievance? You're going to find an arbitrator to say, oh, you deserve damages. No question about it. If you do file a grievance about the conditions, and there is an arbitration, there is a scenario where there's a negotiation, where there's a transition to yet a different place to play in 2026. Now, that could potentially have legs. But for 2025, stop your yapping, Scott. It's done. How many of you have heard of Junior Bridgman? I grew up in Milwaukee, was born in Milwaukee. Actually, I moved to New York when I was 4 or 5. I remember Junior Bridgman as though it was yesterday. Number 2 for the Milwaukee Bucks, played with Brian Winters. Remember him? Junior Bridgman is a player that may mean nothing to you. Just a guy who used to play a long, long time ago. Well, back in the day when no matter how good you were, you did not have enough money to live the rest of your life. That's only recently where you can get paid and live your life. And even then, it's very few players. There are players who go on and have unbelievable business careers. And there are players who go on and become doctors, lawyers, dentists. There are players who go on and become destitute. It's sort of like a society. There are extremes and there are people in the middle. Junior Bridgman is an extreme, and I want to give him a shout out. Yesterday, it was announced that he is buying a stake in the Milwaukee Bucks, his former hometown team. Junior Bridgman is buying 10% of the Bucks at a valuation of $4 billion. Junior Bridgman may be getting in at a lower valuation. There's some thoughts here that he could be getting in at a $3.4 billion valuation, sort of a discount, having a former player come in. Junior Bridgman started a bunch of magazines, Ebony and Jet, he owns. Junior Bridgman had a bunch of franchises. Junior Bridgman built an empire. I just wanted to say that players are interesting to me. I've come across a bunch of different players. I'm trying to think. The first person that just came to my mind was AJ Ramos and Tom Kohler, who were very aware that they needed a post-playing career. They were successful major leaguers by all accounts. But they didn't want to just sit around and do nothing, either because they couldn't, or more importantly, they didn't want to and they were capable of more. So many players go into insurance. They go into real estate and become agents. There's so many different things that we all do as normal people, non-professional athletes. Because interestingly enough, for an athlete, much like people who are high school stars, hey, it's a fun thing to bring up on a Friday night at a bar, the glory days, but you don't do it for a living. How about the people who play in front of 80,000 screaming fans and all of the illegal activities that take place if you're a Florida Gator? 95% of the Florida Gators, they're not making their living playing football after they're done with 5 to 10 years of college. Everyone moves on. That happens to professional athletes too. The overwhelming majority of professional athletes move on. And when you're aware that you're going to move on, you start planning that. One of the great examples is Mike Hill. He was our president of baseball operations. He was our GM, our AGM. He now runs on-field operations. He went to Harvard undergrad. Mike, I'm sorry to talk about you, but when you were playing minor league baseball and you realized that you were not going to make a permanent living playing baseball, you started transitioning into an executive role in baseball. And here you are a quarter of a century later as one of the most successful baseball executives who's ever been. Junior Bridgman did the same thing. He looks back on his time in Milwaukee fondly for sure, and he now gets to go full circle. I wanted to give out a shout to Junior Bridgman. It is interesting that the Bucks are valued at $3.5 to $4 million. The Phoenix Suns just sold for $4 billion. Did I say million? I meant billion. I hear you, Coca. Sorry. Let me do that again. 4,869. It's interesting that the Bucks are valued at $3.4 to $4 billion. The Suns just sold for $4 billion in 2022. The Mavericks under that. The Timberwolves are fighting about a sale price of $1.5 billion. Remember, A-Rod is still in that fight with Glenn Taylor. We have no update on that. The Celtics are for sale, and they're going to go for more than $4 billion. Junior Bridgman gets a $4 billion valuation and maybe a discount to get preferred rates, preferred stock. But guess what? Adam Silver gets another data point of a franchise without a change of control, and he gets a $4 billion data point in Milwaukee. You want to talk about a healthy league. What Junior Bridgman apparently is getting is some level of discount in order to bring to the ownership group some sort of former player, etc. A player who very few people have heard of, though many in Milwaukee have. Do you wonder how the Tom Brady negotiation went? He sat down with Mark Davis and said, hey, Mark, you want me to be an owner? Let me tell you, I'm happy to take 10%. And if your team's worth $4 billion, I'm not giving you $400 million. And I don't want preferred equity at 15% off. I want preferred equity at 80% off. I want to be David frickin' Beckham. Of course, the NFL owners who are still pondering this sale are like, well, that's a little much for you, terrible Tom. So they're trying to negotiate what percentage of equity reduction Tom Brady will get when he buys his piece of the Raiders. Because remember, if you buy something that's worth $4 billion at a value of $3 billion, the day after you buy it, your stock has gone up by 33%. If Tom Brady gets the Raiders at a valuation of $1 billion and they're worth $6 billion, let's say they're even worth $4 billion, think about what he gets. 300% increase in his value. Of course, there could be provisions that he can't sell, he won't sell, he could sell. Hey, what if Fox fires me? Then I want to be the GM or I want to be the principal owner once you die, Mark. All sorts of negotiations happen. A path to control is not included for either Junior Bridgman or Tom Brady that we've heard about. But the concept of these athletes trying to be Beckham, it is athletes who are trying to get pieces of teams at lower than market prices. It's not the PE firms. Jay Williams is a different example. Jay Williams, the former player who has a PE firm where he takes a bunch of people's money, he's not getting discounts. He's out there looking for investments, looking for value, and looking for rates of return that are based on the analysis of the underlying asset. That's not what Junior Bridgman's doing. That's not what Tom Brady's doing. They're getting the rate of return just for being them. Now, that's good work if you can get it. If you can make an investment where you are guaranteed a rate of return for doing nothing but breathing or for the sun setting, That's why you don't see it too often. Because if somebody's getting that benefit in a binary world, somebody is paying the price for that benefit. And you better be bringing something to the table in order to get a guaranteed benefit that you cannot get if you are an employer from anyone else. Because if you don't have that ability, then what exactly are you negotiating over? It's just business at the end of the day. Have a safe weekend. We'll be back Monday, 8 a.m. live. This is nothing personal.